You've been there. You walk into one of those huge clothing stores on a simple mission. You need a new pair of black jeans. And there, in front of you, is the promised land. Not a rack, not a shelf, but an entire wall. 3 whole walls, actually, dedicated to black denim. Your eyes scan the labels. Skinny, slim, straight, bootcut, flare. High-rise, mid-rise, low-rise. Ankle length, cropped, full length. Raw denim, rinsed wash, stretch infused, eco cotton. Suddenly, your simple mission feels complicated. The sheer variety is dazzling. You think, amazing, they have everything. My perfect pair must be here. You pull a pair, then another. You hold them up. Wait, is this one darker? Does slim straight mean it's slimmer than straight, or straighter than slim? 20 minutes later, you're standing in a sea of denim, holding nothing. A strange sense of fatigue washes over you, and you walk out of the store empty-handed, thinking to yourself, they had nothing for me. How can everything so quickly feel like nothing? What you just experienced wasn't you being indecisive or picky. It was a cognitive traffic jam, a specific mental glitch that psychologists call choice overload. It's the strange paradox of modern life. The promise of abundant choice is deeply appealing, but the reality of making a decision from that abundance can be paralyzing, leaving us less satisfied and more likely to just give up. So why does our brain, this incredible supercomputer, short-circuit in front of a jam display or a Netflix menu? It's because every option we consider comes with a hidden mental cost. Think of it as a comparison tax. With just a few options, the tax is tiny. But when the options multiply, that tax gets painfully high, and it drains our brain in 3 specific ways. First, with so many options, our expectations for the perfect choice skyrocket. If there are only 2 pairs of jeans, finding one that fits pretty well feels like a win. But if there are 50 pairs, you're no longer looking for a good pair. You're now on a quest for the platonic ideal of jeans. The one that will magically fit perfectly, never fade, and make you look like a movie star. The bar for satisfaction gets so high, no real-world option can clear it. Second, every option you don't choose represents a potential mistake. Your brain starts playing a painful game of what if. What if I buy this one, but that other one, the one I didn't even try on, was slightly better? This fear of future regret, the anxiety that you'll pick the wrong thing, can be so powerful that the safest feeling option is to not choose at all. Avoiding the choice means avoiding the potential for regret. And finally, there's the sheer mental work. Your brain's working memory, the part that juggles information, is like a small desk. It can handle comparing 3 or 4 things at once. But ask it to compare 24 different jams based on fruit type, sugar content, price, and brand origin? The desk is buried. Your brain defaults to shortcuts, gets exhausted, and eventually just says, I'm out. That feeling of fatigue after shopping isn't in your legs, it's in your head. This isn't just a theory. It was famously demonstrated in a real-world experiment at a gourmet food market. Researchers set up a tasting booth for high-quality jams. On some days, they offered a dazzling array of 24 different flavors. On other days, they offered a neatly curated selection of just 6. Now, the big display was a magnet. It attracted more shoppers, with about 60% of people passing by stopping for a taste. The smaller display was less of a showstopper, attracting only 40% of passers-by. But here's where it gets interesting. When it came time to actually buy a jar of jam, the numbers flipped dramatically. Of the people who stopped at the big display, only 3% made a purchase. But at the small display, a whopping 30% of tasters bought a jar. 10 times more. The big display maximized browsing, but the small display maximized buying. This quirk follows us into much bigger, more important decisions. Another famous study looked at company 401k retirement plans. You'd think that offering employees more mutual fund options would be a good thing, right? More choice, more control. But researchers found the exact opposite. For every 10 additional funds a company offered, employee participation actually dropped by about 1.5% to 2%. That paralysis has huge consequences. People who were overwhelmed by the sheer number of mid-cap value versus international growth funds just gave up, leaving the free matching money from their employer on the table. And even those who did enroll were more likely to play it too safe, putting all their money in the simplest, lowest return funds simply because it was the easiest choice to make. The paradox is clear. Giving people more choices made them less likely to invest in their own future. This reveals a fundamental pattern in our psychology. The relationship between the number of choices and our satisfaction isn't a straight line. It's an inverted U. On the far left, with too few options, we feel constrained and frustrated. But as you add options, satisfaction climbs. Then you hit a peak, a sweet spot of just enough choice. After that, as you keep adding more options, satisfaction plummets and you slide down into the valley of overload. Companies have learned this the hard way. In a widely cited case, Procter & Gamble realized their Head & Shoulders shampoo line had ballooned to 26 different versions. They made a bold move and cut the assortment down to a more manageable 15. What happened? Sales didn't drop. They increased by 10%. By removing options, they made the buying decision easier, and more people followed through. Once you see this pattern, you see it everywhere. Think about your Friday night. You open a streaming service, ready to relax, but you're met with an infinite scroll of "because you watched" and "trending now." One report found viewers spend an average of 7.5 minutes just deciding what to watch. That's an entire commercial break spent in menu limbo. And nearly 1 in 5 of us sometimes just give up entirely and watch old clips on YouTube instead. Or think of the giant menu at a chain restaurant. 17 types of omelets, 9 different Benedicts, and a whole page just for pancakes. The table goes quiet. The energy dips. You ask the server 3 different clarifying questions. Then, when the food finally arrives, a wave of order envy washes over the table as you eye your friend's dish and wonder if you made the right call. The tiny neighborhood cafe with 5 perfect brunch options? Everyone orders in 2 minutes and leaves happy. Now, it's important to say that choice overload isn't a universal law. Some big meta-analyses, which are studies of studies, found that the average effect across all situations is actually close to 0. This doesn't mean it's not real. It means it's highly situational. It's a fire that only starts when the conditions are right. So when does it strike? Overload is most powerful when the decision is complex, the options are hard to compare, and you don't have a strong preference going in. But if you're an expert, or if you know exactly what you want, a large selection can be fantastic. A professional chef loves a spice rack with 100 spices. A beginner just wants salt and pepper. If you walk in knowing you need a size 10 running shoe from this specific brand, then seeing 30 colors isn't overwhelming. It's empowering. So how do we navigate this world of infinite options without getting paralyzed? The key is to give your brain a cheat sheet. First, decide what you want before you look. Don't start by browsing. Start by defining your criteria. I'm looking for a thriller movie under 2 hours. Or, I need a yogurt with high protein and low sugar. This transforms your search from an endless exploration into a simple yes-no task. Second, embrace the rule of 3. Once you've filtered, force yourself to pick only 3 finalists. Your brain is excellent at comparing 3 things. It can hold them all in working memory and make a good trade-off. Compare those 3, pick one, and then, this is the hard part, mentally move on. Don't reopen the tabs. Don't second guess. You've made a good choice, not necessarily the mythical, perfect one. Finally, learn to love good enough. This is the difference between being a maximizer and a satisficer. Maximizers feel compelled to check every option to be sure they're picking the absolute best, and they are often plagued by regret. Satisficers have a set of criteria, and they pick the first option that meets them. And studies show that satisficers are consistently happier with their choices. Freeing yourself from the quest for the best is freeing yourself from overload. So the next time you're standing in front of a wall of choices and feel that familiar wave of anxiety, that feeling that everything is somehow nothing, remember, it's not a personal failing. It's just your brain's ancient wiring getting crossed by a very modern problem. The solution isn't to get a bigger brain. It's to shrink the decision. Decide what matters first. Narrow your options fast. And be happy with great instead of hunting for perfect. Do that and you'll find that the feeling of "they had nothing" magically turns into the satisfaction of "I found it."